Welcome to another episode of Vineyard at Home. Today I'm going to be reading from Proverbs 14, which has two of my favorite passages to ever quote. I find myself quoting these quite frequently to people that I meet with and talk to, and I quote them to myself all the time. The first one is something that is my go-to whenever I'm thinking through something, and that's Proverbs 14:12, and it says, "There's a way that seems right to a man, but its way ends in death." And that basically just sums up that there's a compulsion that we have. There's a hardwiring that we have, that we think we know we're on the right course. But for me, this verse is that check that there's a way that seems right to me, to myself, that time after time after time gets me in trouble over and over and over again. And the second verse that I find myself regularly quoting is that whoever is slow to anger, it's 14:29, whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. So that's just a reminder to, slow down. He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. And it's interesting, because today I'm really talking about anger. These two passages, there's a way that seems right to me in my anger, but that way ends in death. And then 29 says, whoever is slow to anger has great understanding. So there's a way that seems right to me, but that's not the right way. So the solution to that is to be slow to my anger and have great understanding. It seems, I forget these most often when I'm angry though. And I've had the experience of, my life completely losing it. Typically the situation goes like this. There's lots of challenges at church. It's a long day or a long week. There's lots of difficult conversations. And throughout one given day, there's a lot of little irritations that just seem to pile up. I don't know about you, but it happens quite frequently when it's the little things in life. It's not always the big things for me. The big things are easy to navigate, but the small irritations are what send me over the top. So I get in my truck and I'm on my way home, and of course someone cuts me off. There's somebody at a red light that's not paying attention. Little irritation, and then you get on the highway and you're cruising in the fast lane, and there's some semi truck in front of you. This personally should be against the law. There's a semi truck just cruising in the fast lane about 50 miles an hour, and nobody can pass him, and it's holding up traffic, and I lose it. That's the point where my horn starts honking, my brights start flashing, and basically I'm shouting in my car for my own benefit and nobody else's at all. Anger, here's the truth about anger. Anger always finds a way to escape. It has to have an outlet. And anger causes a tremendous amount of issues in our lives if it doesn't have an outlet. Jesus even said that the distance between anger at someone and murdering them was a pretty short distance. And it's basically, if you're wondering how can you get there, basically if you're so angry at somebody, anger allows us to devalue someone to the point where we'd be all right if they weren't alive. What happens with our anger is we begin to dehumanize people and convince ourselves that they don't matter. And that's what leads to violent crimes throughout the world, and has even researchers have said that the dehumanizing of people has led to such atrocities like the Holocaust. And now does our anger get us there, killing 6 million people? No. I hope not. But, if you understand the power that anger has in our lives, you can find the golden thread to get there. So what happens in our anger, and the word contempt comes to mind, that's what gets produced in us. Contempt basically says, you're in my way, you're not worth paying attention to or respecting, and it's better off that you weren't here. That's how you get there. That's the golden thread. The wisdom that God has, though, is disarming to our anger. The wisdom of God has a lot to do with cutting our trigger wires. The wisdom that God has, and particularly if you read through Proverbs 14, you'll find a lot of nuggets on what to do when we're angry. Because anger, it makes us lash out. And Proverbs 14 says that. Proverbs 14 says that, we lash out when we're angry, and we act without thinking. And it even says that anger makes really intelligent people act foolish. And what happens when we act foolish is we miss the consequences of our anger. And we play into those things that happen when we're really angry. And those ways that seem right to us in that moment, those are the ways that end in death. So what's on the other side of anger, right? What does wisdom bring us that helps us deal with our anger? One word, and this is at the heart of Proverbs 14, patience. It says, whoever is patient has great understanding. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding. Whoever is patient. But the one who is quick-tempered displays folly or displays foolishness. Patience is one of the wisest virtues because it helps us stop, listen, and assess reality. I'll say that again. Patience is one of the wisest virtues because it helps us stop, listen, and assess reality. It takes patience to do that. Patience keeps us from acting too quickly and at times even too violently. And those actions are based really wholeheartedly on what we're feeling at the time. Patience helps us take a deep breath. It helps us really see what truly matters. It helps us understand what's happening in the present moment. Patience helps us realize that our anger has more control over us than we have over it. Patience. So as you read Proverbs today, think about how patience and anger have appeared in your life recently. And think about this. What can chasing after God's wisdom do in helping you find patience that gives life rather than the anger that brings about death? What can patience do in your life when you've been on a road towards death? What can it do to put you on a path towards life? Thanks for joining me.